I'm so close to designing an automatic farm for every single item in the game of Minecraft. I keep track of the progress in this spreadsheet here, where I'm only 5% away from completing this insane goal. But with Minecraft's new pale oak tree, I set out to design a redstone machine to automate this process as much as possible so you can get an unlimited source of all these new wood items. But it turns out that the pale oak tree has some quirky behaviors, so I'll show you how I conquered each of these challenges while building up the machine. It all starts by choosing the right location. Once you have a big enough spot, we're going to first turn on the chunks so we can see them by pressing F3 plus G. And we want to build the farm almost completely inside of one of these chunks. And we're going to actually go to a certain location within the chunk, which is the chunk coordinate 10, 5. And you can find this on your F3 menu. Right at that location, we're going to place in a chest. And then on the south side of that, we're then going to place in a hopper pointing into this. Building the farm in this direction will make it more efficient. Now this is the lowest part of the farm, and this is where we're going to put in some more storage. We need to have enough storage to keep up with the amount of items that are coming in. So we're going to add another double chest. And then on the back side, we're going to have a hopper pointing into both sides of this here. And then also we're going to have a hopper that is facing right into this one. Then we're going to have a block right here, and then we're going to have another block right here. Now on top of this, we're going to put in a sticky piston facing this direction with a honey block with a slab over here. And then we're going to come in with a campfire that is sitting on top of this honey, and this is going to be used to move the player back and forth so they can plant all 4 saplings. Now to prevent items from getting pushed about, we're going to come in with some immovable blocks like leaves. Now we're going to place in the location for the saplings, so we're going to add in 3 more blocks here. And then these blocks are going to get eventually powered and are going to push up the tree using these sticky pistons. And they're going to push up the dirt, which is going to hold the saplings. I use some mudded mangrove roots because it has a bit higher blast resistance, meaning it's less likely to get destroyed by the TNT. Now we need to come in and power these pistons with some redstone. We're going to start with the block over here. And we're going to add 4 more onto this. Then we're going to turn this direction and add in a total of 5 more over here. And then we're going to continue going around this direction, where we're going to take this downwards, and then we're going to go back upwards again with a block here. So now we're going to place down our redstone, and the redstone is going to power that piston. It's also going to power this piston. We need to make sure they don't connect by placing a block that is solid between them. All the power is going to come from this block eventually, but it's also going to come out this side and go all the way around over this way, where it's going to go up on top of this block and into this block here, powering the piston behind it. And we're also going to power this piston here just by placing a block and a redstone. So with this redstone, we can power all 4 of the pistons without needing any repeaters or target blocks. So all these pistons are going to get powered from a repeater that's going to be on top of here on 2 delay. And that will make the pulse a little bit longer when it comes from this sticky piston, which is here, that's going to have an observer pointing towards this. And that way the pistons won't drop their blocks, but instead will pull them back again. And this piston is going to get powered from a torch. We're going to remove this and place in the redstone torch, and that's going to extend it. You can see how they pulse there. And that torch is going to be turned off with this redstone dust, which is also going to activate this piston that moves the player, going through this torch here and going through this redstone here, extending it. We're also going to use this same power to come over here and power a food dispenser. You don't need this part if you're using a beacon to heal the player, but using food to heal the player can be cheaper for some people. So this redstone is going to go over here into this block, which is going to power this dropper, sending items upwards. Then they're going to send them over into this dropper, which will then shoot its items on top of this hopper here, close enough for the player to pick up, to use, to eat. Otherwise, they'll just recycle them so it doesn't get wasted. We can watch items get shot out just by placing in some glass on either side here. And lastly, one right here. Now go ahead and click that like button. So these 3 components are all getting powered from this redstone line right here, which we're then going to extend and hook up to a clock with the redstone dust there. And now we're going to place in a hopper clock here. So we'll place down a nice wide platform that is 2 wide. And then we're going to come in starting with a block over here, which is going to get powered by a comparator. And we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And these comparators are going to be reading some hoppers, and the hoppers are going to be facing each other so that the items move back and forth. And when they read the items, they're going to send their signals into these redstone dust, which are going to activate these sticky pistons on either side, which are going to move this redstone block back and forth. And the on and off switch for this entire clock will be with this lever right here, which will have powered. Now we're going to come in and place in some full cube blocks above the hoppers to prevent them from picking up any new items. Now the hopper that's on the same side as the redstone block, we're going to come in here and place in a total of 11 items that normally stack to just 16. So something like ender pearls or snowballs, as well as 5 items that normally stack up to 64, like the majority of the items in the game. This will make a really unique redstone signal, allowing us to activate all these different components with a single clock, despite them needing to start and stop at different times. Now there's a fourth component that needs to be activated, and that is the TNT to destroy the tree. Now we're going to do this by making a T flip-flop using a wax bulb, doesn't matter how oxidized. Then we're going to read the signal out of the wax bulb by placing a block there and a block over here. And then this comparator will actually read the signal of it. And then it's going to push its power into this block over here, which will move this trapdoor so that when we place scaffolding here as well as here, the scaffolding will change shape depending if it's open or closed, and this change can be read by an observer, which will read at the top. Easy way to transport redstone signals to where the TNT is going to be at. But before we put in the TNT, we're going to come in and place in the water collection system. That way, in case you mess up the TNT, it doesn't destroy what you built so far. So over here where we're going to plant in our tree, we're going to place in a collection system for the saplings by placing a block there as well as here, then here, and then we're going to wrap this all the way around until it ends up right there. And this is where we're going to have some water. I'm going to use some glass just so we can kind of watch it, but you can use whatever blocks you want to. And it's going to come all the way up to here. Now before we put in the water to transport the items, we're going to have to hold the water back. So we're going to place in a dropper here and here. We're going to use these later on. Now to prevent the water from falling out this side over here, we're going to place in some blocks here. I'm going to use glass once again. And then we're going to hold the water back with a sign over here. You could also use an open gate. Now with this block here, we should be ready to place in our water, with it going right here, and then it's going to flow all the way around, dropping the items near the player so they can automatically refill their saplings, with the rest items getting picked up by the hopper and chest that we have over here. So now we're ready to actually use these droppers. They're going to get powered by a note block here, and they're going to get filled in with these hoppers. We're going to start the hoppers from that one over there. We're going to connect them all back this direction. Then we're going to start a separate line that's going to this one, going this way. And then both these lines are going to go out a total of 6, so 3 and 6 like that. And then the same thing for this one, all the way out to here. And this is the location where we're going to place in our bone meal to grow up the trees automatically. Now we're going to come in and make sure to place in our solid full blocks on top of all these hoppers to prevent any items from getting picked up. And all these hopper lines are going to eventually push their bone meal into these droppers, which will then send them up into these 2 dispensers. And the way we're going to power these 2 dispensers here is with an observer, which is going to be facing on top of this hopper here towards us. And it'll be powering this block here, which will also power the note block down below, which will power both these dispensers at the same time, and power the droppers down here with quasi connectivity. Now on the opposite side of this observer here, we're going to have another observer facing the opposite side, which is going to make a clock. We can turn this clock on and off by placing in a piston right there. And we can power this piston by placing on a block over here with a lever over here. And then what we want to do is power it, remove the power, and then start back up again. This will make it slightly faster so that the trees will grow in faster and will decrease the chance of failure. We're also going to place in a block over top of this hopper here. Now while we wait for these dispensers to fill up with bone meal, we're going to put in the droppers, which are going to be used to send the items down into this water stream. So we can remove this water for the moment, and then we're going to come in and crouch down here, look upwards, and place a dropper in the very top of the corner so it's pointing downwards. And then we're going to go to the opposite corner over here, and we're going to do the same thing, place in a block, place in a dropper facing downwards. And both these droppers are going to be fed items from the hoppers, which are going to be over here. We're going to have 2 facing each other, then 2 going into those. And we got the same thing going on over here. We're going to have 2 going into this, and then 2 into those. And we're going to do the same thing on this side, but we're a little bit limited on space. We're going to place 1 there, 1 over here going into it. And we need to place a 3rd one, but we need to make sure that this 3rd one can't have its items pulled by the hopper that's moving bone meal. So we need to make sure to come in here and at least place in 1 bone meal in each of these slots here. That way when we place in a hopper here, even if this is picking up some saplings, notice the saplings are not going to actually get pulled in by this hopper down here because it's always full, but instead will make its way to this dropper. And we're gonna do the same thing for this side over here, where it's gonna have a hopper pointing this way, and we're gonna make sure that this hopper down here has at least Bonemeal in all of their slots before coming in and removing this block here and placing in a hopper. So now it should look like this, and we're going to be powering each of these two droppers with a block here and observer clock. So we're going to have one observer facing that way and one facing this way. And this will keep them powered so they shoot their items downwards. We're going to do the same thing with this drop over here with a power source. And then we're going to have an observer over here and one over here. So they're facing opposite directions. So any items that are sent in here will get shot to the ground, and we can come in and place in our water once again, and you can see how they get washed around over there. Have you joined as a subscriber yet? So now that we have all the redstone for the lower half, we can come in and place in the water, which will collect the majority of the items that fall from the tree. What we're going to do is we're going to start here in the center, and on each of these two sides, we're going to go out a total of 6. And if there is a gap, we're going to fill it in with blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This side's already filled in. We're going to go over to this side here. We already got 2, and we're going to continue this. Another 4 on this side, and another 4 on this side. And we'll do that to each of these sides. So now we have those down, we're going to take each of those and we're going to go out a total of 3 more blocks. So it's like this, and we're going to do this to each side. So we're making these little wings, and then we're going to make wings on this side. Total of 3. If there's already blocks there, we don't add more to them. So one side will look like this, and now we'll do this to the other sides. Starting there, we're going to go out 3 like this, and also 3 on this side. 3 on this side, and over here, this side as well, and lastly on this side. So now it should look like this. So now in each of these corners, we're going to go up so that we're on this level here, and then we're going to fill in this entire area except for this corner here, where we'll instead come in and place in a block down there. We'll do this for the other 3 sides over here. Now it looks like this. Now before we place in the water on top of this, we're going to hold the water in by placing in some walls. We're going to have some slabs on top of the chest so we can still access it. And then we're going to go around and make a little boundaries for this entire thing. When we get to these top layers here, we can come in with some indestructible block like obsidian, or you can just come in with some leaves and water, which is a bit cheaper. We need to have 2 of those on the edges here. And we come in with some normal blocks here, and then every time we come to these edges, we're going to have these indestructible blocks here. And then we're going to continue this wall all the way around the entire thing, doing the same indestructible blocks in these areas here. Anything that's waterlogged can't be destroyed. We just got to make sure the water is not going into the farm, messing up the flowing water, which we're going to place in a bit later. For the blocks around the edges here, we do want to use something that has a high blast resistance like stone. I'm using andesite so you can easily see the edges. And then just like that, we finish the entire little area to hold in our water. Now we come in with a water source and place it right here in this corner here. You notice the water will flow almost all the way to the edge right here. So what we'll do is we'll come in and place in some temporary blocks here. This will update the water. Now we'll do the same thing to the other 3 sides. And when you're done, it should look like this, where none of the water actually goes into the center. So now we're ready to build the TNT part. To prevent any stray TNT from ending up down there and exploding, we're going to place in some blocks so they can blow up in the water and not do any damage. And what we want to do is come over here to where we had the scaffolding. We want to put exactly 23 scaffolding in our hand here. Then we're going to click this direction to place in one over there. And then we're going to place all the rest on the edge of this one, and this will put them directly above us. Just hold down right click and that will place all of them. Now to protect our scaffolding from the TNT blast, we're going to come in with some stone blocks here. Then we're going to put in 6 indestructible blocks on this side over here. This will protect it from the nearby TNT, which will be over here. Then we're going to continue this upwards with stone blocks until we get at the same level as the indestructible blocks. And then we're going to put in 2 more layers of stone on top. Make sure to scaffold over from the very top layer of the stone. Now I'll show you guys how to build the TNT duper version of the farm, as it will be used by the most players. But for those of you guys that don't use TNT dupers, you can use this dispenser version here. I'll provide it as a schematic as well as a world download. The height of the scaffolding is a bit different, so keep that in mind. And it will use 6 TNT for every tree, which is quite a lot, but this will allow you to build the farm without dupers. Okay, let's go back to doing the tutorial for the TNT duper version. So after we have these 2 blocks of stone type, we're going to come here and we're going to scaffold out using leaves all the way until we get to the center of the farm. I recommend using leaves because they can easily get removed by the machine later on. Then we're going to come in and place in a 2x2 platform, and this platform should be directly on top of the 2x2 we have down there. And now what we want to do is come in here and we're going to place in a total of a 2x2 of pistons that are also facing downwards. And these are going to be used to move the tree back downwards in case it gets too tall. We're just crouching and clicking at the very top of these here in order to make the pistons face downwards like this. With the pistons in place, we're going to get up on top of them and we're going to place in 4 redstone here. Then we're going to put in a temp block over here with an observer facing downwards so it will activate these pistons. So now we're going to get up to where the actual observer is at. So we're going to get up here and then going this direction, we're going to come in with 3 blocks that are all stone types. Then we'll put in 3 repeaters on full delay going this direction, as well as 1 that's on top of this observer. Notice when this repeater turns on and off, it's going to activate the pistons. Now we'll place in a leaf here, and then we're going to place in some immovable blocks, such as like furnaces, that can have repeaters placed on top of them. These are also going to be on full delay, and their power is going to be connected using this block here. So all these repeaters are facing this direction, and they're going to go into a block over here, and then that block is going to power a redstone dust, which is right here. And then this is going to power this block, which is going to activate a duper for the TNT, which is going to be right over here. We're going to make a TNT duper using slime because it's about the easiest to do. We're going to come with 3 slime like this, then 2 on this side here, and 1 right here. There's going to be a wall on this one as well as this one. And then we're going to place in a dead coral fan on the top of that. And then we're going to place in a rail that is a detector facing this direction with a minecart on top. We won't put the TNT in at this moment, but when the TNT does get duplicated, we want it to get aligned with a block that's going to be over here. We'll place a block on this side as well as 1 right here. And now we got 1 of the dupers completed, and we can go and work on the next duper, which is over here. So the power that goes into these repeaters is going to first come from this block right here, which is also going to be powering a duper that is on this side here with a sticky piston. And then we're going to place in our slime. We need to place in 3 of them vertically. In order to place in the other ones, we can always hop down here and scaffold over there using our leaves. So now that we're underneath of it, we can come in and place in those 3 blocks and the 2 slime on either side, 1 in the center, the walls here and here, the dead coral fan right there, the rail on top of that with the minecart on it. And we also need to align the TNT. We're going to do this by placing in a leaf block right here and then a solid block right there. We want to make sure there's no blocks directly underneath of this slime block right here. Otherwise the TNT will land on it and it will blow this all up. So now it will look like this, and we're 1/3 done putting in the dupers. So the way we're going to power both of these pistons here is with a redstone dust that is here, and that's going to get powered by a block that is on top of it, which is going to get powered by some repeaters. So first we're going to put in 6 blocks total here. And then on top of each of these, we're going to have repeaters going towards that block over there. All 6 of them are going to be on 4 ticks of delay. And then all these repeaters are going to be powered by a power source, which is on top of this block. So it places some blocks to hold this power, put in blocks here as well as there, and then take it all the way to over here. And this is where we have to put in another TNT duper. We can once again use some leaves in order to stack out so we can actually access this place. It's going to have a sticky piston in the front of that with our 3 slime blocks in a row. You cannot use honey because honey is not a full cubed block. Of course, we're going to have our slime there, and the walls will go right there as well as in front right here. Coral fan goes right there, and the rail goes this direction with a minecart on top. Once again, we want to make sure there's no blocks underneath of that coral piece over there, and then we're going to also place in a block right here to align the TNT. Now we're going to come back and we're going to continue the redstone. So we're going to place on some blocks first. We're placing a total of 8 of these going in this direction. And it should line up with this over here. And then all these blocks will have some redstone dust on them, taking us all the way to that piston there. And then this redstone here is going to be powered by some redstone above it, which is going to be over this direction with 2 more redstone dust like this. Now we need to place in the next duper. We can start by placing in some blocks down here. We need to take this all the way to over here. And so we can place in a block right there. And then in front of this block right here is where we're going to have the next TNT duper. Once again, we'll have to place in 3 slimes in a row here. In order to place in the last one, we're going to have to scaffold down a bit lower, which we can do by clicking on some blocks down below and using our leaves. Or you can use a bucket of water so that you can get underneath of it in order to place in some of these lower blocks. Then once again, we'll want to place in the 2 slime blocks facing away from the farm, the one in the center, the walls on either of these, and the fan over there, with the detector rail and minecart there. And like before, right behind this fan here, we want to place in our solid block, while making sure we don't have any blocks underneath of it. Now lastly, we'll place in some redstone to activate it, and all this redstone here is going to be powered by this block here, which is going to have a repeater on top of it on full delay, and it's going to push its power into this block, and it's going to come from another repeater which is over here on full delay. And these repeaters are going to be powered from this block, which is going to get its power from some more redstone. So we're going to add in 5 more blocks here, and we're going to have 4 repeaters on those, all on full delay. And their power comes from this block, which goes over in this direction, and then it's going to start going downwards. So in order to stair step downwards, we're going to just place in some leaves there, go down one more time, and then it's going to go this direction. So place a block there. So now we need to get down here, so we're going to place in some of our temp blocks using leaves. And then on the side of this block here, we're going to place in sticky piston. And once again, we're going to place in 3 slime blocks with the 2 blocks facing away from the center of the farm. And the one right there with the walls there and there, the fan there, and the detector rail plus minecart there. Once again, we'll make sure there's no blocks underneath of the fan. And we want to come behind it and place in a solid block directly behind the fan like so. Now we're going to connect this up with some redstone so it will activate it all the way over to here. And then we're going to take this out a total of 4 more blocks going in this direction. And then once again, we're going to start stair stepping downwards. So we're going to use our leaf blocks in order to step down 1, then twice. And then lastly, we're going to stair step over here with a block right there. So it looks like this. Now we need to get down low once again, so we're going to place in some of our temp leaf blocks. And on the side of this block, away from the center of the farm, we're going to place in our sticky piston. Now we're going to come in with our 3 slime blocks like that, the one that's in front. And we're also going to have the 2 that are on the side, one there and there, with the walls there and there, fan there, and lastly the detector rail and minecart. Make sure there's no blocks underneath of the fan. Then we're going to come behind the fan and place in a solid block like so. Now this is going to get powered by having redstone that's going to go up our stairs here and all the way over to here. So lastly, it will look like this. So in order for these dupers to work properly, we want to power them and keep them powered for a little while. So we're going to put in a little clock. So at the very top here, we're going to come over and place in a block here. And then we're going to take this back. This is where we're going to place in our wax copper bulb of any type and a comparator reading its results. Now we're going to place a block over here, and then we're going to place a total of 7 blocks on this side going out this direction. And then we're going to double this up by filling in this side with blocks as well. Then we're going to have a total of 7 repeaters that are on top of these all the way till we get to here. And all of these are going to be on full delay. Then we're going to fill in the rest with just some redstone dust. And then we're going to continue the redstone all the way around. And if we did this properly, we should be able to place an observer at the same Y level as the top of our scaffolding. And then that observer is going to get updated and it's going to push its power into this repeater here, which will place on a total of 4 delay. And that'll make the pulse a little bit longer. And then we're going to push that pulse into our pulse extending clock. And all this power is coming from the scaffolding from the redstone down below. So now it will look like this up above. So once you make sure you got everything built correctly, the main thing is that each of these fans here will be directly over top of these notched corners for the 4 corners. And then when it comes to the 2 center ones, the fans that are up above are going to be exactly 2 blocks diagonal from the center. So there, and then also from here, there should also be the fan up above. So if it looks good, we're going to come in and place in the TNT. The TNT will go in front of each of these walls right here. So when it extends, it will pick it up and it will bud power it. And that way, when it moves back and forth while getting an update from the breaking off fan, it will then duplicate it. You can learn more about TNT duping in this video here and its history. So we're going to come in and place in a TNT in front of each of these here. And then we can also place them in for the 2 center ones. So TNT will go there. And for this one over here, we'll have a TNT there. And while you're climbing around the build, go ahead and place in some torches on some solid blocks just to light this up. You don't have any hostile mobs that are spawning inside of your redstone around here. So once you're ready with that, we can come in and actually extend all of these dupers. So now go ahead and place a lever on this redstone here and activate it so it's powered. This will extend each of the dupers, connecting the TNT without it actually going off. Now you can go ahead and turn this off. Make sure not to turn it back on again. So now you're done with all of the redstone for the build. Now we'll hear a word from our sponsor. That's these guys, all my monthly supporters here. Thank you guys so much for helping me out. So now we can go ahead and test out the dupers by coming over here and turning on the clock. This is going to send a signal upwards. You can see the TNT is going to get pushed backwards, but they'll get dropped at perfectly timed so that it's low enough to destroy the different parts of the tree, but not so low that it ends up in the water where it can't actually break any pieces of the tree. Now the TNT can destroy this dirt down here, but it's really rare while the farm is running since there's typically wood logs that are protecting it. But if you're running the farm and there's no trees growing, then there's a higher chance it will knock out one of these dirt. The TNT also drops low enough so it doesn't actually destroy any of the blocks up above. When pale oak trees first came out, they were quite a bit different than dark oak trees. You can see they had these hanging moss, and this hanging moss could actually grow down here, which was actually inside of the area that the tree checks in order to see if the sapling can grow. And saplings normally ignore stuff like logs and dirt, but it wasn't actually ignoring this new block here, meaning if the TNT did not destroy the previous tree's hanging moss, it would prevent the next tree from growing. There was also weird behaviors where it was putting in this moss carpet in weird spots, and once again, this was a block that the tree would not allow in order to grow upwards. And this caused quite a bit of problems when designing my farm in the early snapshots. But they later came in and decided that these trees that you grow up yourself will no longer have carpets or moss in them. So you now only find these trees in the Pale Gardens biome, where you can find these trees when planted by the player. But there was one strange behavior that they still left in when it comes into these pale oak trees. If you would happen to destroy all these blocks with the TNT, and then you come to grow the next tree, it will only grow part of the tree, the part that's actually missing the logs in the northwest corner of it, because it's only checking to see if there is missing logs here, otherwise it doesn't bother putting in the other 3 sides. This means you can end up getting some really weird trees that come out of this. But this behavior is also in dark oak trees. So you'll sometimes see this behavior inside the farm where I'll accidentally not place in some logs, but the farm will continue to work. And as you can see, the farm also works for dark oak tree farms, as they have the same layout for the wood, except you will also get apples because these are oak leaves. And this is why we put the 2 center TNT explosions near this corner as well as the opposite. Because if we remove this corner's logs, then we can make sure not to have any gaps and therefore lose out on logs per hour. Plus the tree is more likely to put in some extra logs on this corner here, which is closer to the TNT to remove them, since they have higher blast resistance than the nearby leaves. So with all that working good, we go ahead and turn off this clock here. And now we can come in and place in some light sources around the edge down here. That way mobs don't spawn up on the edges. And we'll also come down here and place in some light sources so we don't have creepers in your redstone down below. Especially if you build this on the ground, you don't want mobs to kill your player while you're AFK. And throw in a lightning rod in this corner here to keep the farm safe. So before we run the farm, we want to come in and have our Bonemeal filled up enough so we don't have problems with the items up above going into the actual collection. As we talked about earlier, we want to make sure that at least this hopper has enough Bonemeal to fill up the whole thing, as well as the hopper that is over here, so that saplings don't end up inside of it. Now you can hook this Bonemeal chest here up to a infinite source of Bonemeal using my automatic moss farm. You can learn all about it in this video here, which I'll link in the description. Then you also want to come in and put in your food source. Whatever type of food you have, just put it in this dropper right here. But alternatively, instead of having food, you could choose just to have a regen beacon nearby. You can also set the primary effect into resistance, to help you out a little bit more. Or if you don't want to use a beacon or the food dispenser, you can choose to wear a full set of netherite blast resistant protected armor, each being level 4, along with a stack of food, and in which case you can AFK for about 2 hours before your armor will break. But the simple method is just the first one. We're just going to hold some chicken in our main hand, and we're going to have some saplings, either pale oak or dark oak, in our offhand. But if you AFK this over a half hour, we're going to have to put in a slightly faster chest. And this is by having a double chest here as well as here. And then both those double chests are going to go into this chest down here. And by having 2 sets of hoppers, we can actually keep up with the farm. We're also going to put in another hopper there. And if you're going to add in more storage, make sure to always put in 2 hoppers coming out of one of these chests going over to the next one. So that we have like 2 hoppers coming out of this one. And that way I'll always be able to keep up. We also can stop items from getting stuck on top of this block by placing in another hopper, which will feed those items into all these chests. See how I design all my farms from scratch with my archived live streams over at Twitch. Now to start up the farm, we're first going to have to start up the farm. So we're going to flick this switch over here. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to crouch and sneak into the slabbed area right here. And then from here, we're going to hop up and climb on top of this campfire over here. Then just make sure your entire inventory is full so that the chicken that gets dispensed over here will just sit on top of the hopper until you eat one that's in your hand. Make sure all 4 dirt are in place, and then come in and remove any of the blocks that you still have above it. Now you want to back yourself into this corner back here so you're touching the farthest. And you can see that the honeys can move the player between 2 locations. And every time the honey moves, it's going to move us from this corner to this corner over here. And by standing on the campfire, we're at the perfect height where we can plant in the saplings. So now we're going to aim towards the dirt. And we need to get the yaw and the pitch of where the player is viewing a very certain angle. That way we can place in all the trees in a very particular order. To do this, you want to come into your controls here and change your mouse settings. So sensitivity is really slow. And now you can get really precise angles. And we're going to yaw until it says 13.3. And then we're going to go up and down until it says 1.5. So once we're on the right hand side, we go ahead and hold down right click. And after you eat all your food up, then you're going to place in 2 saplings. And then you get moved over and place in 2 more saplings. Then the pistons are going to push the tree upwards. So we place in 2 more saplings. And the player is not going to place in the next 2 saplings until the farm's ready for the next tree. So now you can go AFK just by holding down right click. You can do this automatically by holding down right click and then press F3 plus T. And then once that comes up, just release the right click button. And if you did this properly, your player will automatically plant down the saplings and automatically eat without you having to push down any keys. And if you turned off auto pause by pressing F3 plus P, you could then use Alt Tab to leave the window. And you can do other stuff on your computer while the player is still automatically holding down right click. Now there is a chance that the TNT will destroy one of the saplings as you place them in a little bit early, but it won't really affect the farm. Show your appreciation for my insane dedication by sharing this with your favorite Minecrafter. And just by AFKing the farm for 1 hour, it will give you over 10,600 of the pale oak logs, over 1,600 of the pale oak saplings, and around 1,000 sticks per hour. And you will get similar number of items when it comes to running it as a dark oak farm. The only difference is that you'll also get apples. And in that 1 hour time, it'll use up around 650 Bonemeal. It also works for small and big oak trees, birch trees, 1x1 spruce trees, acacias, 1x1 jungles, and even cherry trees. Although with the shorter tree types, their leaves can allow TNT rays to reach the observer clock, so you might have to move it and put some obsidian in the floor. Now check out this playlist on how I designed an automatic farm for every single item in the game of Minecraft. And I will see you guys all next one. Bye bye!